What's good, friends? Ebony Chappelle checking in here with another episode of What's Good with Ebony Chappelle. And right now, it is a little challenging to find the good in the midst of so much craziness going on. That noise you hear in the background is Opal. She's decided to sit in my lap. Everybody say hi to Opal. I had another episode planned for today, but things are going on in the world, and I just felt compelled to come on and talk about how I'm feeling and talk about an experience that I had to try to take away some of the stigma of this topic. So, right now, there are some things happening at the Supreme Court where potentially Roe versus Wade is going to be overturned, making it a lot more difficult for people that are pregnant to get abortions. And I live in a state where it's already really difficult. And we would be probably one of the main places to go ahead and make it illegal. So I have a lot of feelings around that. And I'm still trying to navigate them and navigate, my own experiences with such. So several years ago, I made the tough decision to have an abortion. And physically, it was one of the most uncomfortable experiences of my life. But on other levels, it was one of the most liberating choices I'd ever made. And it took me a long time and a lot of therapy to understand it that way because I felt a lot of things about myself when I was going through that experience, but liberated was not one of the things that I felt. So when I found out I was pregnant, I found out I was pregnant really early on. And I don't know what it was. I just kind of knew. And immediately I was thinking, wow, okay, how do I figure this out? So I reached out to the person I'd been seeing, and this person was not even, they just weren't supportive. They were not enthusiastic about anything. And I didn't necessarily expect them to be, but this vibe let me know that whatever was going to happen next, I was going to be completely on my own. So this person let me know that they did not want to have anything to do with the fact that I was pregnant and would potentially be bringing a child into the world. And it was a lot to deal with. Um, I had, because of the waiting period in Indiana, I had to wait some weeks before I could even do anything. Um, because at this point, I had so many things going through my mind. Um, and abortion was not my first choice. I wanted it to be so far down the list because at that point in my life, I thought, these are things that can be worked through, things can be figured out. And the other party was not interested in figuring anything out. So at that point, I just I went through so much, um, from feeling extremely guilty, for having found myself in this type of situation. You know, I'd always been a very cautious person when it came to romantic relationships. And this was a time where I was, thrown off like, wow, I can't believe I'm freaking pregnant. Um, but at the same time, I thought, this is something that could be figured out. So when it was clear that it wasn't going to be figured out between the two of us, I had a choice to make. And I'm the child of teenage parents. And while I know what it's like to be loved, I also know what it's like to clearly know that you were unexpected. I know what it's like to be neglected. I know what it's like to be unwanted, and I know what it's like to feel like you're a burden on someone's life. So, I had to think about it. I could have made the choice to ignore what the other person was telling me and carry the pregnancy to term, knowing full well that this person didn't care and didn't want to be involved. And they had their own reasons for doing so. And, I just have to make peace with the fact that that was the choice that they made. Um, so I could have forged ahead to prove some sort of point, you know, but also knowing full well that the things that I experienced as a child and that I have worked the rest of my life to overcome in terms of that neglect and mistreatment. I just thought, how unfair would it be to subject someone knowingly to that type of treatment? So as hard as it was for me to make that choice, I just felt like it would be ultimately unfair for me to subject someone to that. And that's not a story that I had heard from anyone before. And I didn't there were not a lot of people that I could talk to about my experience. But I'm grateful for therapy because I was in therapy at the time. And having access to therapy um, was super helpful. Um, I had my faith. I had a couple of friends that I was able to confide in, and that helped. So my my abortion experience wasn't due to anything physically wrong. Sometimes women have to have these because physically they're not able to carry the pregnancy to term um, because of different medical abnormalities. There are people that have had abortions because they were sexually assaulted and then found themselves pregnant. I mean, there are so many different reasons why people, make these choices. And regardless of what it is, I'm grateful for the fact that that choice was available to me because what it did was give me an option. And I appreciated having that option, even though it was a really, really hard choice to make. I appreciated having that option. I I just think that if more people understood what it's like to be in that spot, then maybe they would think differently about the judgment and the shame that they try to attach to people that use this form of healthcare, because that's ultimately what it is. It's been said a million times before, way better than I'm about to say it. But we live in a society that doesn't give a fuck about women, doesn't really give a fuck about children. And then if you add on the top of that, if you're black and poor, like, I mean, the writing's on the wall, like it's obvious. So to also be in a society that would force people to give birth in very not ideal and unwanted circumstances. And it has nothing to do with morality. It has nothing to do with any of the things that they say. It has everything to do with control and subjugation. And it's dark and it's fucked up. It's just, yeah, I don't even have the words at this point, but I know that this is not the typical type of conversations that I have on this show. And, I'm still reconciling and making sense of my own very messy experience. But I felt compelled to tell a little bit of my truth in the midst of what's going on, to, you know, not be ashamed and to help release some of the stigma that's associated with this. So, yeah. Well, you guys take really, really good care of yourselves. Enjoy your life the best way you can. And yeah, we'll talk soon.